TSM. Jacob, tell me something.
TSM.
Tell me about TSM right now. How do they lose to Immortals this week? What is going on with this team? What are the challenges that you are noticing here?
Seems bad. Like I don't know what more to say, right? Like
Wow.
I don't think they're bad. They're not amazing, but I don't think they're bad.
So
expand.
Okay, so to the credit, I think Immortals is getting better now under new management and with a different coaching structure. So it's not like this is if they would have lost to Immortals 2 weeks ago, I would have been like ringing the red alarm altogether. But like I've just been so underwhelmed by the consistent performance from TSM lately. You know, I want to talk about this a little bit later because I know we have some academy stuff on the docket, but like they do have some academy players that are particularly interesting, especially when I look at Treats that I think that I've heard a little bit about people wanting to bring him in. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know at this point. But yeah, like TSM just looks so disjointed. And a lot of people are going to point at Spica and just be like, he's garbage. And he's not. Like, he's not great. He's not. Like, he's not as good as Contracts. He's not as good as Blabber. Right? He's not as good as Vinskare, and I could go on. But he's actually not awful. And he's going to get scapegoated a lot because this team has Bjergsen on it. It has Double Lift on it. It's going to be the same way it was in the spring with Broken Blade and last year with Broken Blade. Everybody was like, they should get rid of Broken Blade in the offseason. He's not necessarily the problem either, right? Like, it's just collectively as a team, they look really off. I've been unimpressed by the bot lane performance, to say the least. Both of them, to be honest, Double Lift and Biofrost. I don't know if I'd pin it on one in particular, but I certainly would say that, like, for me, if I were going to make a change, it would be trying out Treats because you have an import slot open. Why don't you just go ahead and give it a shot? Like, there's what possibly could go wrong at this point, right? Like, you are on a 6-loss streak, so throw him in. Like, he's doing well in Academy. But yeah, like the stats that we have on screen right now, like obviously point to everyone except Bjergsen and Double Lift because they're the carries. But like, I think this team collectively should take some blame here. And I've been very unimpressed by this team. I thought this team would be a lot better. I thought they would make the World Championship. I'm having some serious doubts here midway through the split.
I don't think they're terrible. I actually think Broken Blade's been one of their worst performing players. I think Spica might be their second best player, and that's not saying a lot because it has reverted back to the Bjergsen 4 wards meta that was so popular a few years ago on TSM and year and after year and after year. And Bjergsen really has kind of reverted back to that great Bjergsen form, that MVP Bjergsen, the 4-time MVP, which is great for TSM, but everything around him hasn't been up to snuff. So I don't think TSM is terrible. I don't want to throw in the towel just yet. NA is too spastic outside of C9 where I can really say who's going to Worlds outside of C9 and 2 other teams. I'm not going to cancel TSM yet. TSM is still out there. I'm not crossing them out yet. We can cross out a few teams in NA that they're not going to Worlds. For TSM, I still have a little bit of hope, a little bit of optimism. NA is too weak where I can't just say TSM can't make it out.
The thing with TSM, the thing with TSM that worries me the most, I think, is that a lot of it is still some signature stuff that we've seen, like in their early and mid game, especially that we've seen, like regardless of who their jungler is. And I'm saying that because, again, to the point, I know that Spica is going to get scapegoated a lot. But I also think, to Tyler's point, like, we're looking at the next group of teams, right? FlyQuest, who have looked really shaky, is tied for 4th. And then we have CLG and EG, which their game was like galaxy brain level of play this past week when they met each other. So it's like, okay, TSM, even if they stay at this level and they show a lot of similar things in how they approach the mid game that they've had for years, they still should like make playoffs. They still will have a chance to go to Worlds. I think the disappointing thing about this roster is that like there's that idea that it could be more, right? That's the main issue. It's like if you're looking at this lineup and what they did in the offseason, 6-4 mid-season or just past mid-season is not where they want to be.
And they took the biggest mid-season swing, right? Like Kabe also a little bit got Kabe got a little bit scapegoated too. Like, do I think he had a good spring? No. Do I think that he was the worst player on TSM in the spring? No. Do I think that he could have improved in the summer? Probably. Instead, they took the big swing on double lift and all the drama that happened around that, right? Which puts them in a much more like position of scrutiny if they do not do well, because people are going to cry nepotism and all the other things we talked about among ourselves. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like they took the biggest mid-second swing. It was super public. It was costly. It was not cheap to get him away from Liquid, get double lift away from Liquid. And like, to have this result that is incredibly underwhelming for as many swings as they've taken. And like, let's not forget that like they paid Bjergsen very, very nicely this past offseason also. But that was before free agency night. They did that extension like right at the tail end of Worlds. And so I think people may forget that it happened. But like, yeah, like TSM spending a lot of money on this League of Legends team being competitive, and there are not very good results with that happening. So I don't know. I've been very unimpressed relative to the cost that went into it, and the cost compared to some of the other teams that like are developing talent that I believe a little bit more in across the league.
So TSM will be playing FlyQuest and 100 Thieves this week, and I think this is going to be a very telling week for TSM with those two teams. You have a struggling FlyQuest still in the mix, but more importantly, in my opinion, you have a surging 100 Thieves with roster changes and a new outlook. So let's see how that match unfolds. I think that's going to be a very telling one. Before we move off of this, is it safe to say that Rogue is better than TSM now?
Yes. Rogue is waiting in the lunchroom.
Definitely.
I mean,
yeah.
if
I just
Rogue
want
makes
to be clear.
If Rogue makes Worlds, TSM should just throw to not make Worlds. If they see Rogue qualified, they should just be like, we're not going. Because if TSM goes to Worlds and then gets smashed by Rogue, they will never hear the end of it. And right now, it's no question that Rogue is the better team. And coming up in this next weekend, we have 100 Thieves of Sunday. And and they're finally playing around Sunday. Sunday is just like he's rubbing his hand together, looking at Broken Blade, getting smashed game after game. And it's gonna be a very difficult week for TSM. It's gonna be a very difficult week. I could see them going 0-2, but as I see them going 0-2, they're definitely gonna go 2-0. So congratulations TSM on going 2-0 before failing the week after.